Hour of champion. Turn your next day. Born a champion. I was born a champion. Woo! There you go. Let's give yourself a round of applause. All right, welcome. Welcome everyone. Welcome canines. All right. So, how you guys doing tonight?
Very good.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
All right, a little bit more. All right, so just want to make sure I have a little bit of mic here for my Facebook friends. So everybody say hello to Facebook friends. All right. So this is your first workshop tonight. Raise your hand if you've ever been to a workshop. All right, give yourself a round of applause. Keep your hand up. You've been to 3 or more workshops, 5 or more workshops, 10 or more workshops, 20, 30, 40, 50, 50, 60 plus. All right, everybody give them a big round of applause. Awesome. All right, so you guys keep coming back to the workshops. You're going to see a lot of the same faces. We have a culture here of learning and growing. You know, when you stop learning, you stop growing. And when you stop growing, you start what? Dying. So every workshop builds on the last one. And most of you guys here, you're here with a prevention mindset, right? So we're not here to treat disease, we're here to prevent disease. And that's really what you're gonna get out of tonight. Tonight we have our cancer prevention workshop, but every month we have a different workshop. And it's basically a core curriculum. We call it Elevation Health University. And next month we have anti-aging and detox. How many of you guys want to get younger with every year that you get older? Say aye. Aye. All right. So I would make it a point to be here. This is a great workshop. You can learn about anti-aging and detox, all the latest cutting edge stuff that's not a gimmick, that actually does work. So you want to dial that in your calendar. Everybody, you can grab one of these if you don't have one. We have them at the front. Just shows our calendar pretty much the whole year out for all the different workshops. Keep learning and growing in 2021. But tonight we're here for cancer prevention, right? So let's just start by saying this. You know, it's some studies now are showing 1 out of 2 people, 1 out of 2 men, 1 out of 2 women, at some point in their life will be diagnosed with what? Cancer. So what does that mean? Turn and look at the person on your left, and turn and look at the person on your right. And that means that you got a 50-50 chance. Now, I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm not saying that to speak that over you. But what I am telling is that this really needs to be a wake-up call. Because basically what everything is pointing to today is that if you're not living your life trying to prevent cancer, then there's a high probability you're on your way to developing it and getting it. So I'm not here to teach you about how to treat cancer, because I'm not going to be one of those people who say that, hey, I have a cure for cancer, and there's this exotic noni fruit that hangs in the Amazon, or, you know, follow my this, follow my that. No, it doesn't work like that. What you're going to learn about tonight is conceptual. It's not theoretical, it's conceptual. And I want to help you change your mindset from treatment to prevention. And that's really what we're going to get out of this tonight. So let's start with the fact of our genes, your genetic expression. How many of you guys have cancer that runs in your family? Cancer runs on my mom's side, right? Heart disease runs on my dad's side. How many of you guys know, like, we can all kind of dial back to that, where we sat in front of the doctor and they took the history and all that. But, you know, we really need to start owning up to the fact that whatever hereditary genes that we have plays very little of a role in terms of whether or not we're at risk for cancer. I mean, certainly if you neglect your lifestyle and that you have a higher risk for cancer because of your family, that may be a different story. But that top line says right there that genetic expression depends on your what? On your environment. It's really not the environment like you're sitting in right now or planet Earth. It's the environment that bathes your cells. Not the environment out here, the environment in here. Okay, so what that means is that the environment that you're subjecting your genes to is going to determine whether they turn on and express cancer genes or turn on cancer killing genes. And you have both. You have heart disease promoting genes, you have heart disease killing genes. Every gene that you have has a little lever on it that you're either going to turn it on or turn it off. Does everybody understand that? You got that? Okay, so when you look at all these things on the left there, like alcohol, being overweight, being sedentary, subluxation, which is nerve interference, sugar, stress, if you're a person that's basically creating that type of environment for the genes, chances are you're turning the cancer promoting genes on and turning the cancer fighting genes what? Off. And so that's really not a difficult concept to understand, is it? Like, we know that. But when it comes down to it, your genes only play 5 to 10% in and of themselves of whether or not a person gets cancer or heart disease or diabetes. 95% of whether or not you get cancer or any disease for that matter is based on your what? Your environment, really your lifestyle. And so those little 4 buttons up there, which we call our core 4 at Elevation Health, that's our health delivery system to make sure that we're giving your body and your cells the right environment that it needs to create health instead of sickness and disease. Function, fitness, nutrition, and education. Those are the 4 things: function, fitness, nutrition, education. So when we put those together, we have a powerful proactive plan to prevent sickness and disease. And for purposes tonight, we're going to talk about cancer. So I'm going to give you 5 keys. Number 1, eliminate cancer-causing drugs and testing. So what does that mean? Well, we're born into a medicine chest, whether we like it or not. I don't know about you guys, but my dad was an Army and the medic, and if there was an ill, then we got a pill. So that's just how it worked in my house. How about you? Yeah. And if that's not the case, you got every TV commercial and the World Health Organization and the CDC and every other political agenda trying to drive you to take more medications and get vaccinations, because in the end, it's not about your health, it's about their profits. And so we don't know any better when we're younger, and so we just follow the directions of authority, and we start popping this stuff, like antacids. The FDA pulled Zantac because it was linked to what? Cancer. What else? Aspirin a day keeps the doctor away. Really? But they didn't tell you that you're increasing your risk of breast cancer by 80%. Yeah. Cholesterol drugs. Everybody's on cholesterol because we know that cholesterol causes heart disease. Wrong. Now, if you guys come to our Heart Smart Nutrition Workshop, you'll learn that cholesterol doesn't cause heart disease, but that's a lie they've gotten everybody to believe so that people can take cholesterol drugs. Yet, just as many people have heart attacks with high cholesterol as low cholesterol. And again, I want to pique your interest so you continue to want to learn what the truth is about this, because if you wind up believing lies, you're increasing your risk of breast cancer by 80 to 140% just by taking cholesterol medication. And nobody wants to do that, but we do. Antibiotic studies show that you're increasing your risk of cancer, because what do antibiotics do to your immune system? Make it stronger or weaker? Weaker. You're weaker, yeah, and that's what's killing cancer, and we're weakening it by taking these things day in and day out. Blood pressure medications, recently, within the last couple of years, they were called 4 blood pressure medications with cancer-causing impurities. We covered that last month in our Heart Smart. It was the month before, I think. But so this is why it's so important to keep coming back to the workshops, because we don't know what we don't know. And sometimes what you don't know can mean the difference between life and death. Right or right? Right. What about mammography? Again, not just cancer-causing drugs, but testing. So I remember my mom talking about getting mammographies, and yet all these years go by, and now what the studies are showing is it doesn't show that it saves any lives. And yet, if you're a woman and you have a genetic predisposition to breast cancer, every time you have a mammography, you're increasing your risk of cancer because of the exposure to radiation. And we've known this for a long time, and now a lot of the studies are coming out saying, not just for prostate cancer, but breast cancer also, that if it never would have got diagnosed and would have left untreated, the body would have taken care of it by itself. So yeah, you have to be looking for these things. And if you are proactive with your health, and you're one of those people that eat good and exercise, and you don't like to take medications, certainly you need to have confidence that the body doesn't need any help, it just needs no interference. And your body's not stupid, it's smart. And so if there's no trouble, you don't go looking for it. When they start poking around and prodding and they start looking to find things, then all of a sudden you're treating things. So breast cancer awareness. How many of you guys know every year what happens in October? There's pink ribbons everywhere. Why do we see the pink ribbons everywhere? Because it makes money. You know, there's licensing fees that have to be paid. That's why you see it on the NFL. That's why you see it on the Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's why you see it, you know, with pink shoelaces. That's why you see pink everywhere. Everybody, any business that wants to position themselves as a humanitarian, you know, good deeder, has to pay big bucks for that. And where's that money going to? Susan B. Komen Foundation, right? So where did that originate? In 1985, AstraZeneca, the makers of tamoxifen and Arimidex, 2 breast cancer drugs, needed a front runner, right? So that doesn't look good for a drug company to be promoting, you know, breast cancer testing and stuff like that. So they made the Susan B. Komen Foundation as a front runner, a charity, right? A fundraiser. And so this was really who's behind it the whole time, because they had the drugs to treat breast cancer. They just didn't have enough patients to subsidize it. So where does the money go? All the billions of dollars that are raised every single year, where does all that money go? More drugs, more cancer treating drugs, and more cancer causing drugs. Did you know that tamoxifen, one of the major side effects, is liver and uterine cancer? Did anybody know that? How many of you guys know people who take tamoxifen ongoingly? Ongoingly, they just once they put you on it, it's almost indefinite. You're on it for breast cancer. It's like a maintenance.
You have breast cancer, you take that?
It's a maintenance. Yeah, it's a maintenance drug for breast cancer. Yeah. So here's the problem. It's not going for education. All that money that they're raising for awareness isn't showing you how to prevent cancer. It's just funneling money to the drug companies for treatments. So it's important that we understand this, because all of this testing leads to false positives. And when we have false positives, we have needless suffering. What's a false positive? How often do we get a false positive? What's a false positive, by the way? When the doctor does a test, they do a mammogram or a prostate exam, and they do the test, and what do they say? You have cancer. And a false positive means that it's what? It's not really there. It's not really there. So how often does that happen? Statistics show about 50% of the time, about half the time. Yeah. So what happens when you get a false positive? Are you pretty calm and collected? Cool as a cucumber? Well, you're freaking out. Your stress goes through the roof, which does what to your immune system? And that increases your risk of cancer. So I want you to watch this clip here.
This Texas woman's story of cancer and chemotherapy seems at first much like any other.
My eyes were red, I had lost my eyebrows, my eyelashes. I was a whole different person.
54-year-old Herlinda Garcia was diagnosed with stage 4 terminal cancer in 2009. It was discovered while having a benign tumor removed from her breast. She reportedly fell into a depression, giving away most of her belongings and even writing out a bucket list. She went through 7 rounds of chemotherapy, which turned out to be all in vain, as she never had cancer in the first place. It wasn't until doctors treating her for anxiety performed some scans that they began to suspect she may have been misdiagnosed. Doctors in Houston, giving her a second opinion, confirmed that she never had cancer to begin with. Here she is before and after her chemo. According to the Houston Chronicle, a judge awarded the part-time civil process worker $367,000. She told the paper, no amount of money is ever going to cover what I went through. But pinning medical malpractice on the doctor responsible for the misdiagnosis could be tough. He died in March. From SN News, I'm Melissa Payton.
Interesting story, isn't it? All right, so again, we're talking about testing and what some of the problems are with testing. Same thing with PSA. What they're finding now is that, it's not appropriate to be, doing the prostate exams anymore for non-symptomatic men. PSA test, is that when you have a high PSA, what is it an indication of?
Infection.
Yeah, infection, benign enlargement, inflammation of the prostate, which can be caused by any number of things. So what is PSA an indication of? Is it an indication of prostate cancer? No, it's an indication of nothing, because you could have a completely normal PSA and have prostate cancer, and you can have an elevated PSA and not have prostate cancer. So it's important that we're aware of this again. Otherwise, we freak out and we make decisions to do more testing, biopsies, which can actually cause cancer, and have all these treatments which create more problem than if we did nothing in the first place. And again, I'm talking about people in healthy circumstances, healthy environments, healthy people with healthy lifestyles. And this is not a necessity. I have to say that if people are turning their back on doing the important things for their health, if they're not taking care of themselves, if they're not being proactive, then maybe every once in a while it's probably a good idea to go get checked out, because that person is running a super high risk of developing sickness and disease. But for those of you who are here right now, and again, you're living a healthy lifestyle, I say more often than not, if you go looking for trouble, you're going to find it. And if your body is healthy and it's making new healthy cells, everything, generally speaking, turns out all right. 2002 study found inconclusive evidence that screening and early detection improve what? Health outcomes. So, not supposed to be getting prostate exams for non-symptomatic men. UCLA Comprehensive Cancer Center, what did they find that radiation does? What does radiation do? It turns benign cancer cells into highly malignant cells. And one of the problems with radiation and also chemotherapy is that while it can shrink and kill certain tumors, it can't kill the cancer stem cells. So unfortunately, in many cases, it comes roaring right back. And we know that, we see that a lot, and that's a big problem. So many of you in here, you've seen what happens when people have chemotherapy and radiation. You see what it does to the individual, what it does to their health. That treatment kills everything. It kills the cancer, but in the process, it's killing the patient. And it's a tough decision because, on one hand, sometimes that tumor doesn't want to stop growing. Sometimes it obstructs organs. Sometimes it's life-threatening. Sometimes there just has to be a decision to cut it out, get it under control. But then again, you're still only addressing the effect. What about the cause? And I'm not saying there's not a time and a place to do chemo or radiation or have surgery to remove the cancer. But does that ever correct the cause of the problem? No. Cancer is not the problem in and of itself. Cancer is an effect of an underlying condition. And I remember using this analogy in my Sunday school class. Ricardo asked me one time, he said, Dr. Yachter, when somebody comes in and they have their back pain, do you just treat their back pain, or do you look for the cause of it? I said, I look for the cause, right? Because if you correct the cause, the pain takes care of itself, right? And then he went on in his lesson to say, well, sin is like that too. When somebody sins, if there's adultery or somebody steals or whatever sin it is, you can punish them with the law for their sin, but if their heart is is bad, you're not correcting the cause of it, right? So the sin is a condition, right? Just like cancer is a condition. So you can address the effect or you can correct the cause. And that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. Again, I'm not here to tell people to not have chemotherapy or not have treatment for their cancer. What I am saying is that whether you do or you don't, if you don't address the cause, the illness, the condition of the body, then you're going to miss the big picture. You're going to be at a significant disadvantage either way. So what's the most sensible approach? I like using the fishbowl analogy. You know, the picture on the left shows you a dirty fishbowl, and those fish are sick. Picture on the right shows you a clean fishbowl, and those fish, people are fish too, yes? Fish are people too. Fish are friends, not food, right? So they're healthy. Now, so you take the fishbowl on the left, and those fish are sick, they're dying, maybe they have tumors growing on them, I don't know. Would anybody in their right mind try to give the fish some kind of superfood or a super supplement or treat the fish and leave the water dirty? That doesn't make sense, right? Because you're not correcting the condition of their environment. It's the same approach with our bodies and with our health when we're looking to treat, whether it's cancer or you treat an infection with an antibiotic or you treat a headache with an aspirin. If your body's sick, you know, you can't treat the disease like it's an entity. You have to look at the body as a condition. And so the picture on the right shows you how we approach the body. So the body has an internal environment, an ecosystem. Remember when I showed you all the different things like smoking and sedentary lifestyle and sugar and obesity and all those things? That creates one or the other. Your lifestyle creates one environment or the other. And the longer you just abuse your body, the more it starts gravitating toward the picture on the left and creates a wonderful environment for cancer to thrive and grow and survive in. But the more you clean up your lifestyle, you start eating good and exercising, and you create this wonderful environment in your body, cancer doesn't like that environment. It has a really hard time surviving in a healthy environment inside of your body. So let me take it a step further. So how do we change the internal environment? We turn on cancer-fighting genes. So this is number 2. How do we turn on cancer-fighting genes? Let's talk about anti-cancer nutritional care. I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Otto Warburg. In 1931, he won a Nobel Prize. He was on the front lines in World War I, literally in a foxhole when he got a letter from Adolf Hitler and said, I want you to come back. You are one of the brightest minds in scientific medicine, and I need you on the front lines here to help us develop our healthcare system. So they brought him in, and he started doing cutting-edge research on cancer, Otto Warburg. And what he found in one of his trademark statements was, no disease, including cancer, can exist in a what? In an alkaline environment. So what he's talking about is the environment inside of your body either creates hospitable or inhospitable conditions for disease to develop. So again, you can kill the cancer, you can shrink the tumor, you can treat it with chemo or radiation, or sometimes you can actually create an inhospitable environment for it to survive and starve it out of your body. How many of you ever thought about that? It's pretty neat when it works. And I've seen it work for many, many people. So another picture for you here. So you look at the pool on the left, right? And you look at the pool on the right. Which pool would you rather swim in? The one on the right. What's wrong with the pool on the left? Well, I got a seat right next to your boyfriend here for you. So what's wrong with the picture on the left? What's wrong with the pool water? The pH is out of balance. Yeah. So you wouldn't swim in that because there's all kinds of stuff in there that doesn't really appeal to you. What makes it green like that? Algae, right? There's all kinds of stuff growing in there which cannot grow when the pH is balanced. The pool on the right, it can't grow in there. Why? The conditions aren't right for it. It can't. It cannot survive in that. That's why it's so important that you put chemicals in your pool to maintain the right pH. If you neglect that, then you allow this environment to develop that's ripe for sickness and disease. Yeast, fungus, mold, cancer. And that's what our bodies turn to on the inside after a while of eating the standard American diet. Look at all the foods. So you see the pH scale right there. And your blood and plasma and your body pH should be slightly alkaline. 7.365 is ideal. And when we're eating processed meats, alcohol, caffeine, sugar, artificial sweeteners, desserts, right? High fructose corn syrup, all the stuff, lots of sugar. What does it do to the pH in our body? It makes it acidic. Okay? And what does that do? That feeds cancer. When you look at all the foods to the right of that, in the alkaline range, what kind of foods do you see there? Vegetables, fruits, all foods made by God. These are all foods made by man, created in a laboratory. If God made your body, His foods belong in your body, right? So that's a pretty good rule of thumb to go by most of the time, but we're looking at low sugar foods, vegetables, lots of greens, alkaline water, and this is important to help you maintain the proper pH. When you look at the pictures, what you're looking at is blood plasma, right? Red blood cells. And the picture on the left shows you what happens to the red blood cells when they're in this environment. And when they're in the acidic environment, it destroys the integrity of the blood cells. And they start clumping together. And when they start clumping together, there's something inside called fermentation that occurs. And when there's fermentation, cancer uses that instead of oxygen. That's how cancer uses this environment to actually respire or breathe or promote more cancer cells. In this environment where you see the healthy blood plasma, that alkaline environment helps to maintain the integrity of the cells and transport oxygen, which is why you can maintain maximum energy in an alkaline environment. You see the, what kind of batteries do we usually buy? Alkaline, right? Just like the Energizer Bunny, still going. So if you want to energize, you need to alkalize. But if you want to slow down, be foggy-headed, slow down the red blood cells, and cause clumping and fermentation of those red blood cells, you're creating a wonderful invitation for cancer, sickness, and disease to get a foothold. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
One, you're starving cancer. The other one, you're feeding it. Whichever one you feed the most wins. So, how many of you guys know what a PET scan is? When do they give you a PET scan? To see where there is cancer. All right? A lot of times they'll use it to follow up and see if your cancer is reducing, if there's less masses. Sometimes they'll find more masses. How do they find the masses? How do they find the cancer? With a radioactive tracer, which is what? Sugar. Yeah. So this is what Otto Warburg talked about, our Nobel Prize recipient in 1931. He said cancer has only one primary cause: the replacement of the respiration process of oxygen with what? Sugar. Yeah. So as long as you got sugar there, you can keep feeding the cancer, and you're still promoting the cause of the condition. But as soon as you remove the sugar, what are you doing? Killing it at its root. You're beginning to starve cancer out of the body, and you are actually starting to improve on the conditions that created the problem in the first place. So here's another clip. I want you to watch this.
If you limit your sugar, you decrease your chances of developing cancer. Absolutely.
Cantley, a Harvard professor and the head of the Beth Israel Deaconess Cancer Center, says when we eat or drink sugar, it causes a sudden spike in the hormone insulin, which can serve as a catalyst to fuel certain types of cancers.
Well, what we're beginning to learn is that insulin can cause adverse effects in various tissues. And of particular concern is cancer.
Why? Nearly a third of some common cancers, including breast and colon cancers, have something called insulin receptors on their surface. Insulin binds to these receptors and signals the tumor to start consuming glucose.
So this is your body.
Every cell in our body needs glucose to survive. But the trouble is, these cancer cells also use it to grow.
So if you happen to have a tumor that has insulin receptors on it, then it will get stimulated to take up the glucose that's in the bloodstream. So rather than going into the fat of the muscle, the glucose now goes into the tumor, and the tumor uses it to grow.
So you've just seen that tumor turn blue, which is essentially reflective of the glucose going into it.
That's right.
So these cancers, much in the same way that muscle will say, hey, I'd like some of that glucose. The fat says, I would like some of that glucose. The cancers have learned how to do this themselves as well?
Yes, so they have evolved the ability to hijack that flow of glucose that's going by in the bloodstream into the tumor itself.
Okay, did you guys get that? So insulin receptors are what's capturing the sugar and feeding the cancer. Certain tumors, certain cancer cells actually have that. So what can raise insulin? What makes your sugar go up? What are you looking at here? Carbs, simple sugars, even complex carbs. Anything that turns to sugar is going to do what to insulin? Right. Elevate it. Yep. So this is a really important point. Everybody who has a butt in the seat right now should actually be taking inventory and asking yourself, how much of this am I taking in on a daily basis? Because, you know, everybody has cancer cells in their body right now. Everybody has cancer cells. And whether or not your immune system is strong determines how far those cancer cells actually get before they're killed off. So the more sugar in our diet, the higher we're increasing our risk of developing some kind of problem. Does that make sense? Are you with me so far? So we need to look at all this stuff, high fructose corn syrup, the Pop-Tarts. Yeah, I don't think that many of us in here actually would have that if we opened up your pantry right now. But if you look at the tomato ketchup and the tomato sauce, and you read the label on that, you know what you're going to find in there? High fructose corn syrup. Yeah, it's worse than sugar. And you start reading the labels on some of these things, and what you're going to find is there are 70 ingredients in there, and you're lucky if you can pronounce 3 of them, because the other 67 were created in a laboratory. Okay, so it's all sugar. So we have to learn how to read the labels. And then we have other things that culturally we're just used to having pretty much in every meal. Bread, potato, rice, pasta. Well, what's wrong with that, Doc? Well, what does it do? Insulin goes up. Insulin goes up, you're opening the doorway to feeding the condition, right? So let's break it down. You have yourself your eggs and bacon, and then you got your bowl of grits. What's the problem in that picture? Grits are what? Corn. Corn is a grain. Yep. And then you have your oatmeal, and the oatmeal has it's got some fruit in there. That's not the big deal. But what do you got in that oatmeal there? Sugar. And then also oatmeal is a grain. So I'm not trying to rain on your parade, but I'll tell you what, man, if I'm a cancer patient, I don't want this. You don't want any of that in there. If you're not a cancer patient, you should be asking yourself how often you're having these things. You know, because maybe it's time to start dialing it back. Nutri-Green, you know, what's up with the Egg McMuffin? What's the problem with that? Wait a second, that's whole wheat bread. Come on, Doc. It doesn't matter what kind of bread is it. What is it doing to insulin? It's raising it, right? Wait a second. Wait. How about that? What's up with that wrap there? What's going on there? I mean, that's got healthy chicken in there and lettuce and the wrap. But what is the wrap part? What's the tortilla you made of? We're made of corn, yeah. Corn, whole wheat. It all has an insulin response. Pollo la plancha. Dios mío. Black beans and rice. What are we doing? Raising insulin. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love this just as much as anybody in this room, and I will have it. I'm just not going to have it every day. Are you? Yeah. Danny yogurt, look at how much sugar is in the yogurt. You got your potatoes there, you got your potatoes there, you got your rice there, you got your pasta there. So listen, I'm not saying you can't ever eat this stuff, but what I am saying is that if you can find something in there and you're having it every day, you're here to get better, right? You're here to improve, see what you can do better. I mean, for me, I would say 5, 6 days out of the week, I'm not having this stuff. But maybe on Friday, Saturday, I'll have a little bit of rice, or I'll have a little bit of potato, I'll have rice and beans, I'll go to La Bamba, I'll have all that stuff. I'll have a cheat day, but for the majority of the week, I'm not having that stuff. And it's not just to prevent cancer, it's also to help me keep my weight down, keep my energy up, keep my mental clarity there. when you're eating these things, you're losing your optimal performance on many different levels. And so that's a strong recommendation I can make for you. The other thing is the trans fats, the corn oil, hydrogenated fats, soybean oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, all these hydrogenated oils, vegetable oils. What that does is that causes an inflammatory effect at the cellular level. It's also very toxic. And this is another cancer-causing ingredient in the recipe for disease. And you want to keep an eye out for all this stuff. It's in your popcorn. We know it's in the fast food. Popcorn, it's in your peanut butter. You know, yeah, read the label. Now you can get peanut butter without the bad stuff in it. They do sell peanut butter, which is, you know, without the hydrogenated fats. But if you're just picking the Skippy off the shelf, I guarantee you. So, and you guys are dropping like flies, one by one. No. All right. At least we're having fun, right? So almost. Let me know when we are. So what's the ketogenic diet? Well, the ketogenic diet is what I have seen people use to actually reverse cancer. I've watched this happen many times, some of which are my patients, some family, and some colleagues who were in late, some of them stage 3, stage 4 cancer, who did not want chemotherapy or radiation. And again, I'm not saying do it or not do it. What I am saying is that these are the options. And these were options that they pursued, and it worked really well. And so with the ketogenic diet, what do you not see there? What do you not see? Sugar. You don't see carbs. There's nothing there to feed the cancer. Not even fruit. Not even low sugar fruits, except, well, actually the avocado is a fruit, if you want to be accurate about it. But it's all fats and proteins. That's what it is. All good fats and proteins. And what that does is it causes your body to switch to using ketones for energy instead of sugar. And your body can do very well on that and actually have more energy and more mental clarity, and at the same time you're starving cancer out of your body. And like I said, I've been a witness to this, and I've seen people reverse stage 4 cancer doing this. I'm not saying it happens 100% in every case every time, but it is powerful and it does work a lot of the time. I've seen this with my mom. This was a strategy that helped her to reduce the cancer in her condition. So this, like, I can only tell you this, that if it was me, that this is what I would be doing if I had cancer. Now, for those of you who are sitting there, you know, I don't think there's anybody here who's been given a cancer diagnosis, so this is not something that is a must. It's like not everybody does well. Like if you don't have cancer, I would recommend that you just go and do a ketogenic diet for a couple of reasons. Number one, mainly because of your genes. Like I know for me, my genes, I did a DNA test, which I know some of you guys here have done it here. We do it in the office here. We check all the DNA. It's a 20-page report. We can look at all the genes, heart genes, cancer genes, Alzheimer's genes, all these different genes. And I found with mine, I don't process, I don't have the genes to process the saturated fat as well as maybe somebody like you, Ricky, or anybody else. It's like probably half of us have the genes to really kill off that saturated fat really well, and some of us don't. I personally do better with a Mediterranean diet, with monounsaturated fats. So I wouldn't have known that except because I had a DNA test. And that's why, since learning this, I don't recommend that everybody do a ketogenic diet, because I've had some of you do it. I know you've told me you did it, and you didn't feel really good doing it, right? So it's not a one-size-fits-all, but I will tell you this. If it's life and death, and you got a cancer diagnosis, you don't want chemo, you don't want radiation, this is the first place to start with. That's for sure. Because it works. I've seen it work. Outside of that, the next option is a paleo diet. And the paleo diet is something that you can actually live on. You know, this is something that's safe. This is something that's genetically friendly with virtually everybody. And this is what I try to gravitate towards. Like for breakfast, I just have a shake in the morning. And what that does is it keeps my blood sugar stable. It's full of protein, antioxidants, vitamins, minerals. You just take 2 scoops, put it in water or almond milk or coconut milk, and basically you've got your meal pretty much right there. Also, what I'll do is I'll have some low sugar fruits with that. Berries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries sometimes. I'll cut it up, just a small cup, and some almond butter. And why is the almond butter important? Because it's got good fat, right? So this is my breakfast. Many of you do this also because you've been coming to the workshops. We call this the breakfast of champions. How many of you guys do a shake every morning? Do a shake, yeah. And so you can do the shake in the morning. You can do it at lunch. Some people like to make a smoothie for breakfast. You can make a smoothie with it. Lunchtime, you can make a green smoothie with it. But it's super high quality protein product. But again, it's got your antioxidants. It's a low level detox. It's got all your vitamins and minerals. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, because I do have a shake every morning.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't use your product. I use like spinach.
Why do you say, of course you don't use my product? Like nobody else? No, just kidding. Of course I don't. No, I'm just messing with
I
you.
use kale,
Yeah.
spinach, chard, and stuff like that.
Right. Uh-huh.
You know, sometimes avocado, and make my own.
That's
with,
good.
With almond milk.
Okay.
So it's the same.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the quality of the product is. You can bring it in. I'll check it out for you. Yeah.
Well,
But
they say organic, which I don't believe everything is organic, even though it says it.
yeah,
It
you
says
gotta
it's
learn. You gotta learn
getting
what's
your
what there.
money.
But you guys, you get the concept. You get the idea. When you do something like this, you're saving time, you're saving money, and you want to make sure you have a good product so you are absorbing what you're supposed to be absorbing.
What is in
Yeah.
there, Octopus? What is this?
What is it? It's basically it's a protein complex with antioxidants, with full multivitamin spectrum. It's got very, very little bit sugar, very low sugar, but it's it's like a fruit type of sugar, a low sugar fruit. And it's got some fat in it also.
So I can read the ingredients?
Yeah, you can read the ingredients. We have it up there. Absolutely.
No, I mean, like before you said you can't even, say the ingredients.
Oh
Is
yeah.
there-
No. It's all natural. It is. So
Dr. Yachter, you
yes.
can add fruits to it?
If you want to make a smoothie, you can.
And
Yeah.
vegetable too?
Mm-hmm.
Either one?
Yeah. You got the master chef sitting there. I guarantee you he'll figure that out. But so for the morning you would do fruit. For the afternoon you would do more greens. That's what a lot of people do. But there's good stuff in there for sure. For lunch, what do you see here for lunch? What are our lunch options? We have lots of what? Greens with a little piece of protein on it, whether it's salmon or chicken or any type of fish. Lots of extra virgin olive oil. Olive oil is good stuff. You have to have lots of good fat in every meal to keep you in fat burning. You see, so grass-fed meat. I'm not a big proponent for eating meat, a lot of meat all the time. But if you are going to have a piece of meat, want to make sure it's grass-fed. You got your meat and vegetables, you got your chicken and vegetables, and you got your stir fry with vegetables. You don't see rice there, right? So you guys are kind of getting the picture here of what to do and what to do better. I won't say what not to do, I'll say what to do better, right? So you're getting a good picture of that. The other 2 things I want to mention to you guys, because we just started carrying this, and my brother is the brainchild behind this. And I wasn't even aware of it until I went on vacation and I was in his house. I'm like, oh, what's this? He's like, oh, you didn't know that? We have this. So, so the multi-powder is also a multivitamin, but it's great from the standpoint of, taking it anytime, anywhere. It's very tasty, and you can also give this to kids. So no pills, especially for people who don't like swallowing pills. If you look at the ingredients in it, it's got a significant source of almost every vitamin, even vitamin D. So so everybody in here should be taking at least 5,000 international units. Some of you should be 7,500 or 10,000, and something like that is just like an easy extra bump. It's got all the major vitamins and minerals. It's very tasty. If you haven't had a taste, get some of that. The other one is the Ultraplex Energy Workout. Also a great source of vitamins, but also if you like to work out, if you like to exercise in the morning and you just need a little more pep in your step. It's not loaded with caffeine like a Starbucks venti. It's natural. It's natural cocoa fruit. It's natural cocoa bean extract, and it's got a great formula in there, which is natural, but it actually boosts your energy levels in there. So just two new things I wanted to introduce you guys to. A couple of other supplements which are particular to fighting cancer. Sulforaphane. This is the Coursera SGS. Sulforaphane is the active ingredient in broccoli and cruciferous vegetables, which are known to be what? Antioxidants, right? Cancer fighting. It's also preventative for Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. It also helps with heart health. It lowers your blood pressure, and it helps with detoxification. So these are really good cancer fighting supplements. And again, part of the protocol for a lot of people that I know who have reversed their cancer without conventional treatment. QBES 100, it's a CoQ10 supplement. When do you take CoQ10? Who takes CoQ10? Most of you guys know if you're a heart patient, especially on a cholesterol medication. Why? Because the cholesterol medication strips the CoQ10 from your heart, muscles, the cells. Cells need CoQ10. It's a necessary molecule for energy, mitochondrial function. That's where your energy comes from. But it's a necessary molecule for all healthy cells. For cellular proliferation in a healthy manner, you need CoQ10. So this is a foundational supplement for regenerating healthy cells as opposed to cancerous ones. The curcumin. Why is the curcumin important? It decreases inflammation. You guys know that. Many of you take it because your shoulder hurts or your neck hurts or your knee hurts or whatever. But many people don't know that it's an anti-cancer supplement. It stops cancer from spreading, mutating, and it also kills cancer stem cells. How important is that? Right? And then vitamin D. Many of you already know, I talk about this all the time, how vitamin D, I mean, if you have adequate vitamin D levels, you can prevent, they say 50% of almost every cancer, breast, prostate, colon, lung, pancreatic cancer. One of the best ways to prevent cancer is to have an optimal vitamin D level. We know that when your vitamin D levels are at 70 or above, they're an ideal range to prevent cancer. Did you know that? And so that's why in our office we do vitamin D testing. We take a finger prick test, we get a little bit of blood, put it on a card, send it to a lab, and we get that exact level. But everybody in here should be taking at least 5,000 international units every day, at a minimum. And for some of you, that may not even be enough. I mean, now that we're testing people regularly, we see people taking vitamin D supplement, and even at that, still in the abnormal range. So we really need to know. Yes.
Why? Wouldn't you be able to get vitamin D naturally?
Yeah, if you lay out in the sun for 20 minutes every day, full sun exposure every single day.
That's it? That's the only way to get it?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get it through the foods that we eat today because the soil is depleted. So we're not getting not just the vitamin D, but a lot of the other vitamins and minerals.
Well, and I think because we use sunscreen too, don't we?
That's true. Yeah, that's another factor. So you brought up a good point that if we're using sunscreen, we're blocking the body's ability to make vitamin D. So in that essence, sunscreen actually contributes to cancer, skin cancer.
And,
yeah.
And the best time would be 8 to 10 in the morning or 4 to 6 in the afternoon.
8 to 10 in the morning, yeah. Full sun, yes.
I thought the sun caused skin cancer.
Well, no, I mean, if you stay out too long, too often, and you keep getting burns, maybe, but the vast majority of the skin cancers are coming from the use of sunscreen. You know, blocking your body's ability to make vitamin D, which would kill the cancer. Yeah. So that's the point that we're talking about. Yeah.
But I've seen the sun burn people like, you know, somebody pour hot water in them. Blisters all over the body.
If that keeps happening over and over, yeah, maybe. But
there's a guy who came from Spain, a young guy, and he sits in the sun because his body's there nice, and you know, and he wanted to look the same way. So
right.
He overdid it.
Yeah. Gotta be careful not to overdo it.
He was blistered all
Yeah. So all these supplements that we're talking about tonight, they actually work together synergistically, which means they have an amplified effect when you take them together. That's why we put them together and package them as a suite, all four together. So for those of you who are interested and you are ready to kind of take the step to the next level and get serious about your health, whether cancer runs in your family or not, or you want a proactive plan for yourself or a family member, that supplement suite is powerful in its approach. So we only have a few of those suites that we put together for each workshop, so the quantities are limited, but we do give you a discount tonight only. We only discount the supplements at the workshop, so it's 15% off tonight only. Another way that you can get a discount on any of the supplements is to write us a review, a Google 5-star review. How do you guys read reviews? Anybody read reviews? Yeah. When you read reviews, do you go to somebody who has 1.5 stars or 5 stars? 5 stars. And if you're a patient in our office and you've been here for a while, you know that we do things differently here, right? You know what we do here. Not many places do that. And there's a lot of people looking for what we do. They just don't know that we're out there. And if you write a review and you share that with people and they read it, you literally could be helping somebody literally save their life. So that's how much your reviews mean to me, because you're helping us help other people. So if I have to bribe you for 25% off, so be it. I'll do it. Just write the review, take a picture, bring it in. We'll give you the gift certificate. So I just wanted to mention that. All right, number 3 is proper hydration and mineral balance. Hydration, hydration, hydration. What does hydration do? It helps your body. What's that? Eliminate. It helps your body to detoxify. But for purposes of maintaining proper pH, if you're getting a good source of alkaline water, it's one of the easiest things to do to maintain the proper pH in your body while you're eating all the other good stuff that we talked about as well. Not to mention eliminating toxins. How do you know if you're well hydrated or not? By looking at your what? Urine, yeah. If your urine is deep, dark yellow, you need more water. If it's clear and you're running to the bathroom very frequently, then you're probably pretty well hydrated. One of the smartest things you can do is carry around a jug with you all day long. I have an old saying, 3 liters a day keeps the doctor away. How many liters a day? 3. 3 liters a day. Give or take, depending on your body weight. But that's what we're looking for. All right, so another thing that'll help you stay hydrated is the pink salt. If you put the pink salt on your food, it helps your body, it helps all the cells actually retain the water. If you have the right minerals, it helps your body stay hydrated. So be careful of regular table salt. That's not the kind of salt that you want to use. You want to use salt that is not super heated to over 1,000 degrees. It's got to be air dried or solar dried in order for it to retain its minerals. And everybody needs minerals, your cells need minerals in order to stay hydrated for the purposes of the points that we're making tonight. That's the type of salt that you need. And that's not the type of salt that's going to raise your blood pressure either. That's the most important thing too.
Dr. Yachter,
Yeah.
that salt you can put in the microwave?
Yeah. Sure can. Yep. I keep it on my table. I keep it in the closet where we cook, and we just put it on everything. Not my breakfast, lunch and dinner. Yes. Yeah. Eliminate cancer-causing toxins. Do toxins cause cancer? Yeah. Toxins cause cancer. You know, every single cell in your body has a membrane around it, and that membrane is made up of fat. And when sugar and trans fats and toxins come in contact with that cell membrane, it wreaks havoc. It causes inflammation. And when those toxins get inside the cells, they change the expression of those genes. If you've got cancer-causing genes and that DNA is inside the cell, and those toxins are part of that environment, guess what it's doing to those genes? It's turning on the cancer-promoting genes, and it's turning off the cancer-fighting genes. This is what toxins do. Now, it doesn't do that in one day or one night. What happens? It's cumulative. It's like filling up a bucket with water. No problem, as long as that bucket's filling up, but the second it starts overflowing, that's when we're in a world of trouble. That's when we start having symptoms, sickness, disease, and cancer. So it's a cumulative effect. Our indoor environment, it's been told to us, it's 2 to 5 times more toxic than our outdoor environment. So we have prescription drugs. Prescription drugs? You mean my blood pressure medication is toxic? Yeah, it was made in the lab. again, I'm not here to tell you to stop taking your medications. I'm here to show you what's part of the recipe right now, which is to follow my point that it's not, are you toxic? The question is, aren't you toxic? The question is, how toxic are you? Yeah. So we have these prescription drugs. We have your soap, your toothpaste, the sudsing agent in those, which is sodium lauryl sulfate, causes cancer in laboratory animals. Unless you're buying Tom's toothpaste or some of these, soaps or toothpastes that have natural ingredients, this is what's going on our skin. Our skin is an organ. Aluminum in some of the deodorants going into your body. You have mercury in all the childhood shots in the form of thimerosal and flu shots. Lord knows how many of those we've had. Childhood shots, flu shots. Even if you don't get flu shots anymore, Dr. Hugh Fudenberg, the world's leading immunogeneticist, said if you've had 10 or more consecutive flu shots, 5 or more consecutive flu shots, you've increased your risk of Alzheimer's by more than 10 times because of the buildup of the mercury and what it does in terms of causing Alzheimer's. And so, when we have fillings, amalgam fillings, that's 50% metallic mercury. If you have one filling, you've exceeded the EPA safety limits on that. And now the American Dental Association is starting to actually put out warnings that it's not appropriate to do this on every patient now, like they've justified in the past. Very, very harmful. If you wore contact lenses in the 90s, this contact lens solution had mercury in that. Lead in our water, lead in our water pipes, lead in our lipsticks. Lead in paints. Not anymore, but if you live in an older house, there's probably lead in the paint in those walls that's been painted over. And then glyphosate. What is glyphosate? Does anybody know what glyphosate is? What is it? Weed killer. Very good. It's the active ingredient in Roundup. And what do they put that in? Basically anything with soy, corn. 70% of basically what we eat. That's what it's coming in. And what do they make soy and corn with? Your French fries, your high fructose corn syrup, all the sodas, the buns that we have our Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich on. Like, unless you're buying something that says non-GMO, it's genetically modified. And why is it genetically modified? To withstand the application of the Roundup. So they're dumping this Roundup into the food, basically, into our food supply, and where's it going? Into our body, into our cells, and then into our brains. So they've actually done studies to track the correlation of the application of glyphosate with senile dementia, and it follows the exact same graph on the chart, point by point, year by year, over a 20-year period of time. Deaths by senile dementia with consistent with the increasing of the application of glyphosate over a 20-year period. Did you know that? No. So that's why I said toxicity is a big thing. So they put glyphosate in the food supply of these laboratory animals, and within weeks, what did they grow? Tumors. All right. So does it cause cancer? Yes or no? Of course it does. I mean, it causes it a lot faster in the smaller animals, but again, it's cumulative with us as well. So at some point, everybody in this room really needs to consider a detoxification program, and whether it's a more aggressive one or a low-level detox, it's really something that should be high on your list of priorities if you've never done it before. So that's the other thing with the Ultraplex, the Complete Clean. I said it's a low-level detox because it has constituents in there like N-acetylcysteine, which is the precursor which helps to boost glutathione, and that's the master antioxidant in your body, which recycles all the other antioxidants, which helps with detoxification. Phase 2 liver detoxification, to be exact. And so this is a lower level detox that your body gets to maintain when you take this every day. So an update on my mom. My mom had liver cancer, and she had some lesions they found in her lungs, and it metastasized to her liver. So this was back in 2017, and she did not want the chemo and the radiation, so she went off to Spain to Dr. Hilu, who was the oncologist who treated one of my friends, the close friends and colleague, who had stage 4 cancer that metastasized. And he went over there, he came back from Dr. Hilu's office, I think it was in 3 weeks, and he was completely cleared of cancer. He had no cancer at all. So I knew the protocol that Dr. Hilu was using, and I knew it was an option for my mom. It's not an option for everybody. It's not cheap. Insurance doesn't pay for it. It was $24,000, and my parents went over there for 3 weeks, and they did it. And their markers came down considerably when she came back. But she didn't just stop. She continued with that same regimen. I mean, this guy he's world class. He's world renowned. People fly into his facility in Marbella, Spain, from all over the world. He's got several different locations. But this was like the main summary of the protocol that she used, and Dr. Hilu recommended, and she continues to use to keep her markers down. The ketogenic diet, the alkalizing nutrition he went over with her, anti-inflammatory nutrition, anti-cancer supplements, which I went over with you tonight. The same supplements that's in the supplement suite. Oxygenation, what does she do? She exercises every day. She does some sort of exercise. She'll do yoga a couple of days a week. She's in the pool every day. Detoxification. And then this is what he did over there, nerve system stimulation. He didn't do it with chiropractic adjustments, but he does work with the chiropractor there. The chiropractor wasn't there when my mom was there. So he used something else by way of the optic nerve to stimulate the nervous system. Now, why would he do that? Why would he have nerve system stimulation as part of his treatment protocol? Because what system controls your immune system? Your nervous system. Yeah, your nervous system controls the immune system. So Dr. David Felton, University of Rochester School of Medicine, said nerve fibers go into every organ of the immune system. Your spleen, your lymph nodes, all these different parts of your body, which are white blood cells, which are part of your immune system, there are nerves that innervate all of that. And they said when you took the nerves away from the spleen or the lymph nodes, you virtually what? Stopped the immune system in its tracks. Now, we know that nerves branch off and go to every different part of the body. And if they go to the organs that control your immune system, and there's interference there, is your immune system going to be stronger or weaker? We know, especially when it affects these two particular areas, the immune system starts shutting down. And how it can affect those nerves or interfere with those nerves is when the vertebrae shift out of alignment. Because those nerves, they branch off the spine, and the bones in your back are only there to protect the spinal cord and the nerves. But when the bones shift out of normal position, it puts pressure on them, it interferes with them. It's like standing on a garden hose. Okay, so the problem with the pressure on the nerves is most of those nerves are not pain sensitive. So most people think, I'll go to a chiropractor when my neck hurts or my back hurts or I feel the pain. But meanwhile, you can have nerve interference without feeling it. And if it's shutting down vital nerve supply to your spleen, your liver, your white blood cells, is it making your immune system stronger or weaker? Is it decreasing your risk of cancer or increasing it? So does that make sense? So does that mean that if I have a condition in my spine, it could be causing a condition with my health?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes. He said the weight of it, Dr. Chung-As Su, the University of Colorado, said the weight of a dime on a spinal nerve will reduce the nerve transmission by as much as 60%. So if you're losing 60% nerve supply to your liver or your spleen, you can see very quickly how it won't take long for your immune system to become compromised. And you take that in a person, somebody was at a car accident, slip, fall, trip, maybe they were dropped on their head as a child, maybe they had a sports injury. That thing's been sitting there for 10 years. Meanwhile, they're eating every meal through a drive-through window, right? They're under a lot of stress. Now you've got a prime candidate for cancer. You have a prime recipe for cancer to develop in that individual. Can everybody see how that works? So, in my experience, what I've found that people under regular chiropractic care, they have a significant reduced risk of cancer. And I've told many of you many times, when you have a cough, sniffle, sneeze, flu, what's the most important thing to do? You get adjusted. Why? Because there's a direct neurological connection and communication, especially between nerve endings and white blood cells. But in this study, they talked about something called interleukin. It's a protein that regulates the activity of white blood cells. Now, if anybody here has ever worked in a hospital or does, you know interleukin, interferon, is what they give to people with AIDS or cancer. It's a powerful immune system. They usually do it in the form of a shot. Chiron Pharmaceutical Company makes a synthetic form of it that they inject into immune-compromised patients, right? And at the cost of thousands of dollars, they do that to boost that patient's immune system. But here's what studies show from Canadian Memorial University. They took 76 asymptomatic patients. What does asymptomatic mean? No symptoms. Just for ha-has, they wanted to see what would happen from adjusting them, see what happened with their interleukin levels. 76 of them. They measured their interleukin levels. They drew blood 20 minutes before, what does it say? The blood was drawn before, it doesn't say how long before, but they drew their blood before to see their interleukin levels, and then they drew it again 20 minutes and 2 hours after their adjustment. That's what the intervention was. And what did it show? That every person in the study, their levels of interleukin significantly what? Increased. And where did they see that happen? With the adjustment in the mid to upper back. Where did the nerves go from the mid to upper back? To the spleen. Yeah. Does the spleen have anything to do with your immune system? Absolutely. Now, there's a lot of other intricate neurological pathways involved with that, but that's one of the primary pathways. Here's another area, top bone in the neck. This was a study that was published when I was in school in 1990. And they took a group of AIDS patients, and then there was a control group that they gave sham adjustments to. All right, so they didn't get a real chiropractic adjustment. But then the AIDS patients who got the real chiropractic adjustments, in this study, they showed clearly, on average, a 48% increase in the CD4 count. That was the primary component of the white blood levels, the white blood cell count, in the AIDS patients who actually got the real chiropractic adjustments. The ones who got the sham adjustments, their white blood cells actually went down a little bit. So all it is one bone right up here on which area of your spine, your spinal cord, the brainstem. So this is all I've ever done for my patients over the last 27 years in practice, all I've ever done for my family, my wife, my kids. When people get sick, or my family has symptoms, or they don't feel well, we don't take drugs, we take adjustments. So I say, don't get your flu shot, you get your flu adjustment. Does that mean that I'm treating your flu with the adjustment? Does that mean that I'm treating your headache with the adjustment? Does that mean I'm treating your cancer with the adjustment? No, it's not a treatment. Health never comes from the outside in. It always comes from the what? The inside out. All I'm doing is removing the interference from your nervous system. Your nervous system controls the immune system, and that's what's going to fight off your flu, your cold, your bacteria, your cancer, your COVID, whatever it is. That's how it works. So, proper nerve supply. That's the fifth component, and that's what I want to wrap up on. Just give me 2 more minutes here. Study Dr. Ronald Pirro in New York University Cancer Research Center. He measured the immune systems of cancer patients, non-cancer patients, and non-cancer patients under chiropractic care, all under care 5 years or more. And what did he find about the chiropractic patients under care 5 years or more? That their immune systems were on average how much stronger? 300%. Now I've known this for a long time, and so I have had cancer patients under my care. I haven't lost very many cancer patients under my care. When a patient comes to me and says, "Doc, I have cancer," I know by way of this, I know by way of my experience, one thing is for sure. Whether you do chemo or radiation or not, whether you have cancer or not, you're much better off without interference to your nervous system, right? So there was a patient that I had under care, it's probably mid-90s. I was early on in practice and I still knew this stuff. I couldn't have been in practice more than 3, 4, 5 years. He came to me and said I have cancer. And it was already in his spine. It metastasized from his lungs into his spine. And how we found out about it is like his back pain, when he first came in years earlier, his back pain went away really quick. Then it came back and it wasn't going away. So he went, got diagnosis, so they got stage 4 metastatic cancer. It was like way late in the game. So he's like, what would you do? He was my dad's age at the time, maybe in his like mid-50s, 60s. I said, well, Peter, I can't offer you a cure, but I can tell you that if it was me, if you were my dad, I'd be adjusting you every day or many times a week. And I explained to him why. He's like, all right, I got nothing to lose. So he was coming in, up until that point, he was probably coming in once a week or every other week. He started coming in like every day. And he started feeling better, he started doing better, but he got the chemotherapy. And it reduced the cancer, it cleared out his cancer, but the effects from the chemotherapy left him with impairment in his lungs, a lot of fluid in his lungs. And I don't know, another year or 2 years went by, and the cancer came back. And he got chemotherapy again, and it killed the cancer, and it left all this fluid in his lungs again. Meanwhile, every time he went through this, he'd age like another 10 years within that span of time that he was getting treatments. And it was really weakening his body. Make a long story short, I think we were in year 7. Okay, this was, remember, he was stage 4 when he first started. It had already metastasized through his spine. Year 7, cancer comes back again. He tells me, and I said, what are you going to do? He's like, well, you know, the doctor doesn't know what to do. He's never had a terminal cancer patient, you know, like myself, who's gone this far, this long. So he basically left it up to me. And he's like, he said, I'm a laboratory experiment at this point. He's like, whatever you want to do, you know, it's about your quality of life. So he opted to do the chemotherapy again, but this time it left his lungs so weak that he couldn't leave his house. And meanwhile, he was fighting for his life, but he was also fighting for one more thing, his grandson. And his grandson was only 2 months away from being bar mitzvahed. And all Peter wanted to do was stay alive long enough to see his grandson be bar mitzvahed. And he promised him he would. And I went over to his house over here in Jacaranda. I was over there several times a week, and I kept going week after week after week. And he was getting weaker and weaker and weaker. But that week came, and his bar mitzvah happened, and guess what? Peter was there. Peter was there. And that was the picture that he took and gave to me just to celebrate the fact that he could actually be there with his son. Now, he passed away shortly after that, and he fought a good fight. He fought a good fight. But one thing is for sure, and he told me that many times, there's no way he would have gone as long as he did without chiropractic care, without the adjustments. And I know that's a fact. And remember what I said, I'm not here to claim that I can cure cancer or heal cancer, but what I can tell you beyond the shadow of a doubt is chiropractic adds years to your life and life to your years. And with every single adjustment, when you get off that table and those nerve channels are cleared off, you will never know how many cancer cells are being killed off. You will never know how many, that next heart attack or a stroke that you could have prevented. You will never know. Absolutely never know. But as a form of prevention and maintenance, there is nothing more important. If you put me on a desert island and you gave me the choice of whether I could only exercise, or only eat good foods, or only take supplements, or only get chiropractic adjustments. What do you think I know? In my heart of hearts, none of that other stuff comes anywhere close to the power of the adjustment, because all it does is release the power that animates the living universe. That's what created your body. What set the stars and the planets into motion is the same thing that gave you life. When God breathed life into you, that same intelligence that created you never left you. It never leaked out. It stayed on board to make sure that you were created perfectly in His image, and then able to consistently and continuously replicate yourself with new healthy cells everywhere. Your heart, your lungs, your liver, your spleen. Normal cells as opposed to abnormal cells. Now, my job is to make sure that there's no interference, okay, with your body knowing how to continuously carry that process out. But subluxation can interfere with that and can cause an abnormality. Okay, so when there's cancer, when there's sickness, when there's disease, that's not by way of divine design. That's because we lose our way of stewardship, right? Your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. We are called to be good stewards, right? And I've given you the tools in the user's manual tonight to show you how to be a better steward. And so, like I said, you can eat good and exercise, do all these things, but if you've got nerve interference, if you're not regularly going to a chiropractor, getting your nerve system cleared out, you're missing the biggest part. You're missing the biggest part. That's the most important part. So for those of you guys here, you're my patient. I'm preaching to the choir. But for some of you guys who are guests here, make sure if you have a chiropractor, go back and see them on a regular basis. If you're going to somebody who adjusts you and says, come back whenever you hurt, I don't think you're in the right place. It's better than nothing, but you're not in the right place. But if you want to have an accurate assessment, if you have not had your spine checked in a long time or ever, I'm sure you probably agree that it's probably a good idea to have your spine checked every once in a while, if you haven't done that in a while. Get an accurate assessment. What we use in our office is thermography, where we do a thermal scan of your spine, and that helps us detect where there may be nerve interference. And then if that part of the exam, in addition to other components of the exam, warrant that we take x-rays, we put all that together. And we get detailed information about an individual's health, their spinal health in particular. And that'll tell us if your nervous system is firing on all cylinders or if there's interference. And then if we have recommendations for you, we go from there. Normally I'll do a consultation, we'll do the exam and the x-rays. And after we take the x-rays, then we'll do a report of findings. So we spend a lot of time working up a person's health history and seeing what we can do to help people. And normally it's about $350 worth of service. If you're a guest here tonight, we do that for only $97. And that includes the x-rays and the report of findings. And we rarely include the x-rays, but on behalf of the guests that invited you tonight, we're doing that tonight as a courtesy. If anybody's on Facebook watching, you have a family member or friend, ask us and we will follow through with that offer. But you have to post tonight so we know, because the offer ends tonight when the program ends. So if you need an appointment, please see Deborah at the end of tonight. If you need any supplements, see Tamara and Victoria at the front. And I'm so thankful for you guys for being here, for being a wonderful audience. I love and appreciate you. God bless.